Welcome to Caring for the Caregiver Dealing with Burnout and Guilt. I'm Elle Cole, a wife, mom, writer, and podcast host, and I would love for you to take a few minutes and listen to the presentation. This presentation was originally shared in Dallas, Texas at the 6th Annual Sickle Cell Consortium Convention. To be able to acknowledge my feelings. Even if some of you have a spouse, you will quickly realize that your spouse isn't processing this experience the same way you are. And sometimes it can feel like you're not receiving the support that you need. And so I'm here to tell you that you are not alone. It's something that many of us are facing together, and so we have to support each other. We have to create a group that is going to help us support each other. So the first thing we're going to talk about is how do you channel that pain in a productive way so that you're not sitting there and totally consumed by feeling overwhelmed with caring for a child. Because what happens is we're not just caring for our child. A lot of times we have other children. We may have a parent, another family member that we have to look after as well. So the role of a caregiver is not just for us to focus on one person. And what happens as a byproduct of that, we're not taking care of ourselves. And so I'm here today to talk to us, even myself included. I have to remind myself that even though my daughter is a priority, I also have to take care of myself. And I have an 81-year-old mother that I sometimes look after. And so what many of you are facing, I also face. So I just want you to know that you are not alone. Next. Okay, so here. So understanding guilt. Building a case to change your perspective. Because it's really about how are you looking, what is your outlook? How are you looking at life? And we don't want, if we have a negative outlook, what is our kids gonna have? They're gonna be negative about their outcome. But we don't want that. We want them to see that they can achieve things. One thing about this conference is that we are seeing people accomplish their goals, and we're seeing them fulfill their dreams. And just like we see them doing that, our children can achieve the same thing. And so what we have to do, we have to change our perspective into a perspective of hope so that we can actually help our children understand that although you have this challenge, you can accomplish your goals. So there was a quote that I really liked. It says, from a cognitive point of view, guilt is an emotion that people experience because they're convinced that they've caused harm. So for some of us, we think about sickle cell, like, we gave our kid this disease, but here's the thing. Sometimes things happen for a reason, and I'm sure we've all heard that. And for me, what has happened is it's given me a new purpose. It's given me a new goal to look at, not from a negative perspective, but sometimes, and if you've been going to the different sessions, you've heard someone say sometimes the things that happen to you are not for you. It's for other people. And so I truly believe that, sickle cell has been out a long time. One of the very first cases was discovered in 1946, and we're still fighting the same fight today. The life expectancy is still in the 40s, and so what can we do? We need more people fighting, more voices to be heard. And so that's where we come in. We gotta advocate for our kids. We gotta speak up. We gotta tell other people, hey, do you have the sickle cell trait? It's really about creating conversations and feeling comfortable enough to talk about it. Because this is not a disease about shame. It's not for us to be shame or, someone told me, I was talking to a lady and she had sickle cell and she had a daughter with sickle cell and she was a doctor. And she said, you know what? Some people are looking at this disease like it's a problem. She said, but in some places, in some countries, it's actually a benefit. And she was talking about malaria and how some people aren't getting malaria. So you have to teach your kid how to have a new perspective. Your body was created unique, but there are so many other things that you can do. There are so many things that you can do. And so we have to change that narrative in our home, and it starts with us. It starts with how we look at our kid. Are we getting up in the morning telling them that we love them? Are we getting up in the morning giving them their hugs and embracing them and letting them know that they are cherished, they are loved, and they are worthy? Because just like we sometimes go through feelings of needing validation, so do they. And so we have to validate ourselves. It's not our fault. We can't change the past. There's nothing we can do about that. So what are we going to do going forward? Next slide. All right, so acknowledge your feelings. All guilt is not negative. So I'm not here to say, oh, don't feel guilty, because sometimes that feeling that we have inside of us, it pushes us to achieve things. You know, some of you, I'm sure, have felt like it's a driving factor to do something else, to, you know, raise your voice, raise awareness. You know, I didn't really, before my daughter had sickle cell, I had never attended a 5K. I had never, you know, supported those type of movements because I didn't necessarily think they were relevant to me. But now my fight has become real. And it's like, I gotta get out there, I gotta, you know, do something to help other people have a better quality of life, to help my daughter have a better quality of life. And so, also advocating for others. Use your feelings to push for change and make a difference. Helping others will help you see that your situation could be worse. But when we help others, what happens? We help ourselves. Right, it is. It's a two-way street. And, you know, we all, if you're ever on Facebook, you see different people's stories about sickle cell, and sometimes that's a lot to take in. So I'm here to say, when you feel overwhelmed online, get off. You know, you gotta take a break from that, because if you're allowing yourself to consume so much that's not necessarily positive, it can just destroy your own cognitive abilities, and it can really weigh you down. And so you have to know when to quit, know when to pause, and know when to push forward. So forgive yourself. You know, whether you know, I'm not gonna raise my hand and say, you know, how many of you knew you had the sickle cell trait, because that's not important. At this point, we are all in this fight together, regardless of what we knew, when we knew, how we knew, because truthfully, for all of us, it was a 1 in 4 chance. And we did not know, and so we have to look and say, hey, I'm going to focus on the things that I can control. So what are those things that we can control? We can control who our children's doctors are. If you have a doctor that's negative, that's, you know, saying negative things to you, time to move, because you pay them. You know, they don't get paid if you aren't, you know, putting in that for your health insurance. They are paid by you, which means they work for you. And so you have to advocate for yourself and for your child, and if that person is not a good fit, change them. I know my daughter has a new hematologist because the hematologist was not a good fit. You don't need negative people in your life weighing you down, because that's not going to help you. That's going to make you feel more burned out. It's going to make you feel more guilty. And those aren't the people, that's not what we're paying for. And so you want to make sure that you can change the things that you can control. So what else can we control? What are some things that we can control? So we can control who our kids' doctors are. We can control who are, like, what type of activities our kids do. We can make sure that they're living a full life. In the different pictures through my slide, this is a personal experience for me. My daughter, she doesn't only have sickle cell, she also has type 1 diabetes. And so what I live is to make sure that she's living an abundant life. You know, I can look at that and I can choose not to get out of bed every day because it may feel overwhelming, but instead, that's her in the picture. We went kayaking. We do a lot because I'm like, we have one life. You know, no day is promised to us, but we can choose to make every day a good day. So that's what we're doing as a family. We're saying, you know what? We're going to get out there and we're going to do what we can. My daughter, she's the most courageous person I know because she's just so positive. And a lot of times when we're feeling down, you know who uplifts us? Our children. You know, and you see their smiles and it makes you want to smile. My daughter, she actually, we went to a science museum and she went zip lining. I'm actually afraid of heights. So I went up there with her and I got to the top and I looked down and I was like, that is the worst thing to do, because I went back down. The same way I went up, I walked right back down, and I said, you know what? I'm afraid of heights and I can't do this. I looked up, my daughter had art, she was going through all the little obstacles, and I said, if she could do it, so can I. And I said, look, what can I change? Because remember, we got to change the things that we can control. I didn't feel like my shoes were sturdy enough, so what did I do? I changed my shoes. I put on some sneakers, which I should have had on. I just had on some flats, and I thought I could do, be cute. No. No. I changed my shoes, and I went up there, and she said, Mommy, you can do it. So sometimes our kids are the ones who are going to push us and encourage us. And you know what I did? I did do that zip lining. And just a few weeks ago, last week actually, I went zip lining and I went over 400 feet in Cancun. So she planted a seed in my life, and I want to do that for her. I want to plant seeds so that she can, face her fears and do things that are outside of her comfort zone, that are positive and within reason. So that's about forgiving yourself and changing the things that you can control. So when you're going through a situation and things feel overwhelming, think it to yourself. Stop, take 10 deep breaths, and say, what can I control in this situation? There may be a time when you need to step out of the room. And if you can do that, step out of the room. Take those deep breaths. For those of you who pray, pray. And say, God, help me. If you meditate, pause and meditate. And sometimes just removing yourself outside of the situation, you can kind of, grab yourself in a sense and help refocus what you're doing. Join a support group. Now, one of the biggest things and the most important things that we need as caregivers is support. There's not a person in this room or in this world that doesn't need somebody else to support them. No man is an island. And I know when I'm going through it and I'm feeling bad and I'm feeling overwhelmed, the first thing I want to do is retreat. I want to be by myself, and I don't want to connect with others. But that is the worst thing that we can do. So the key is finding people that are the right people to support you. Because everybody that say that they're your friend are not. And we all know that. Because sometimes when we've needed people the most, they haven't come through. But I'm here to challenge you when you are in a community of people and they say, hey, if you need something, let me know. Sometimes we don't take people up on that offer because for whatever reason we don't. A lot of times we have pride and we don't really want to tell people what we're going through because we feel like they don't understand. And so what we need to do, we got to be specific with people. Like, this is what I need. I need some meals. Because sometimes cooking is overwhelming. I don't know about for you guys, that may be your wheelhouse. But for me, when I'm overwhelmed, I do not want to go in that kitchen and cook. I do not want to clean my house. So I have a friend, hey, can you help me tidy up? Because when my house is a mess, my mind is a mess. Amen. And so what we have to do, we got to tell people exactly, like we have different friends for different reasons. And so you got to be specific with your needs because people don't know how to help you. They say that, oh, let me know what you need, but that's kind of an empty statement. I'm going to be very honest with you. So you got to hold people accountable. If they say that to you, you got to say, look, this is exactly what I need. You may need somebody to pick your kid up for school because you may need to rest. Because how many of us is getting enough rest? Not a soul. I wake up around 3 because I feel like I gotta check her blood sugar during the night. And my husband was like, you're not sleeping. And I said, I'm not sleeping because I have a lot on my mind. But what I do, I check on her, and then I put on some soothing music, and I try to go to bed. But sometimes I can't go to sleep immediately, so I have a little journal next to my bed where I write out my thoughts. Because for some of us, it's going to be, you got to find a process that works for you. And if you have all these thoughts in your head that are weighing you down, you got to find a way to transfer those thoughts somewhere else. So if you're a writer, you should write them down. If you're a singer, come up with a song. If you're somebody that needs to move around, get up and exercise. Wherever you are in that moment, you got to do something. Because if you just lay in bed, how many of you realize that you're not going back to sleep? Because we try to do that. We're like, oh, I'm awake, and we just lay there, and nothing is happening. We're not going to sleep, and all those thoughts are recircling. So we have to take charge of those emotions, and we have to do something about it. But you have to find what is the right method for you. So in a sense, we look at our kids and they're doing research on our kids and different things like that, but we have to research ourselves. We got to do a case study on ourselves and recognize what is it that we need. Your body is telling you things. It's telling you when it needs rest, and you have to find a way to do that. So if you have people in your community that can help, hold them accountable and tell them exactly what you need. Don't be ashamed, because we are parents, and it's not easy. It's not easy for parents who don't have children with sickle cell. Parenting is not easy. And so we have to help each other out and be honest about our feelings, be honest about our emotions, and seek support when you can. So it says, if there isn't a support group in your area, consider an online support group. Because some of us are in areas where we feel like we are truly the only ones. And so if that is the case, you got to find people that you feel comfortable with. And I know for me, when my daughter was diagnosed with sickle cell, I did go online and I found these support groups. A lot of the people that are at the conference, I met them online because I said, look, this is something I don't know about. And so I have to talk to people and meet people that will give me that information and teach me how to teach my daughter. So you gotta connect with people who are like-minded. So these people in this room, they're going through the same thing. At this conference, you may wanna exchange information so that you can keep in touch. Sometimes it may just be a text, a word of encouragement. What I try to do in the morning, I try to have a verse or a quote that I'm going to meditate on throughout the day. Something positive. Because if you allow, anything can throw your day off, but you got to constantly remind yourself, you know what, I'm going to have a great day. I'm going to have a great day because, my daughter woke up. That simple thing is huge, and so we have to remind ourselves of the good things. All right, so hire a sitter to watch your kids. So here's the thing, some of us aren't getting out, and it's hard. I know my daughter is 10 now, and my husband and I want to say, we went maybe 6 years without going on a date. Probably even longer, maybe eight years without going on a date, because what we were doing, we were focusing on our kids and not focusing on each other, and that's dangerous. I had a close friend, and she said she had been married for 43 years, and she was telling me she was getting a divorce. And I was devastated because I was raised in a single parent home, and what I did, I looked to my friends whose parents were together for them to show me, what those relationships were like. And it was devastating for me. And she said, all we did was focus on raising our girls, and that's it. They didn't focus on each other. And she said, what you need to do, you need to take time to focus on your relationship. You can do both. As women, we talk about being multitaskers. We can. It's not easy. And I know the very first thing, hire a sitter to watch your kids, I struggle with that. And I struggle with it because my kid has a lot of special needs. And I don't trust people. How many people in here have that same issue? We don't trust people because we know that we know what's best for our kids, right? And we're like, they don't know. I struggle with sending my kids to school because I'm like, how are they going to look after her? They got a classroom full of kids. How are they going to pay attention to her needs? And so what I've done is I have a close friend who, she also has kids, but she said, whenever you need me to watch your kids, I'll watch them. And although she got her own kids, you know what? I take her up on that offer. Because for somebody to tell you that means it's coming from a place of love. And she's somebody I trust. I've actually known her since I was 14 years old. And it just so happens that I moved to an area where she lives. And we went to high school together. And now we've just grown, our relationship has grown because of where we live. So you have to find a friend or somebody that you can trust. Because you're not going to trust everybody. I'm not even going to lie to you. I didn't go to care.com and say, hey, can you watch my kid? That's not me. And it may not be you. If it is you, it's totally okay, because the people that are on there have been vetted, and it's worth it to try it. You may do it once a year, but I'm here to tell you, you got to do something. Because you got to free your mind in some ways so that you can, if we're not healthy, we can't take care of our kids. And so we got to be whole, well-rounded people. That means we have to go out sometimes. We got to have fun sometimes. So this is my daughter. She's an adventurer. I already told you she did some zip lining. She loves skiing. I was terrified. Again, I was like, people that look like me don't ski. I'm gonna just be honest with you. I was like, this is a little out of my comfort zone, because I was going down the bunny slopes. And I was like, this is a lot. And then she was like, oh, Mom, you're doing so good. Let's do the medium slopes. I really should have stayed on the bunny slope where I was comfortable. And, but she was so great at it. I was scared just riding the lift. So here's the thing, our kids will help us. We don't have all the answers, and they're not looking for all the answers from us. They're not looking for perfection from us. Children are resilient. So we're not going to do everything right, but we can do our best. Throughout this conference, I've been asking the warriors, I said, I'm going to be talking to caregivers. What is it that you wish that they knew? And there was one thing that everybody said, and I'm not lying. Like, they said the exact same thing. And that one thing was, don't hold your children back. Don't shelter them. It was that one common thread. And I said, wow, that's huge. So to all of us, we gotta let our children live. And if we allow them to live, we can live. I am that person that likes to be in control. I do write up those documents. I was like, oh, I gotta get this notarized, because I'm going out, and I'm like so overprotective, because that's a part of me too. But in the back of my mind, I said, let her live. So my husband and I actually took our first adult vacation last week. And I felt the tendency, like while I was on vacation, I wanted to call, but I was in another country and my cell phone wasn't working. But it gave me an opportunity to say, when I got back, she was fine. She had all 10 fingers and all 10 toes. She was smiling, she was laughing, she was okay. So we have to give ourselves permission to let them be kids. So I love that you shared that with us. So it's also about taking care of yourself. How many of you have been going to your doctor's appointments? So this is good. This is good. Let us clap, because you gotta go to the doctors. Not just, we take our kids to the doctors. But how many of us are going ourselves? We had 2 people raise their hand. Oh, so 3. 3 people raised their hand. Because I know I don't go like I should. And my daughters now, they're like, Mommy, when are you going to the doctor? Like, because your kids will start to notice some things, And as we age, we need to do our checkups. Because we want to be here for as long as I can, so that we can see them thrive. And in order to do that, we got to take care of ourselves. So I wrote some things, get rest. I talked about that a little bit earlier. That is not optional. It's not optional. And eat nutritious, it says get nutritious whole foods. So this isn't really a holistic talk, but the reason why I'm able to get up in the mornings is because I feel like what you put into your body matters. So one of the things that I do to take care of my child is I've changed my whole family's lifestyle. She's not the only person who eats healthy. We all do. So as a family, you gotta make some health changes. In order to get them to do what they're supposed to do, you gotta do it too. I'm staying, here like everybody else, and my roommate said, man, I have to talk, I gotta talk about caregivers, and I said, I'm gonna miss my exercise class, because I was like, I need to go over these slides. And she was like, do you exercise every day? I said, yes. I said, I exercise every day. Why do I exercise every day? I don't do it for hours. I got 30 minutes. 15 of those minutes, I try to do something very active. The other 15, I'll try to lift weights, I'll try to take a walk or something else, something light. But you gotta take care of yourself. And getting out in the fresh air is huge. Because sometimes we got funky attitudes sometimes. I'ma just be honest. Like, I'm gonna own my stuff. Sometimes my attitude needs to be checked. And you know what checks it? When I get out in the fresh air. It's like, just exercising and moving increases those endorphins, and it will help you feel better. Because we shouldn't be snapping at our kids. We should be patient and listening, and if we're taking care of ourselves, we can do that. So I get up and I try to exercise. I do it for 30 minutes. You got it, like if you only have 15 minutes, if you only have 10 minutes, I'm here to say, walking to the mailbox can be therapeutic. So the next one is educate yourself. One of the ways that we can be the best parents that we can be is by educating ourselves. We're here at this conference, they talked about CRISPR, they talked about gene editing, they talked about all different types of things. When we gain information, we can actually help our children. So we can then talk to our doctors. So I went to the conference, I heard about this. Is this something that would be available for my child? When you inform yourself, and what happens is our doctors and our caregivers, they then start bringing new stuff to us. They're more open to give us more options. It's about increasing our options. Accept the outcome. It is what it is. Our children, they do have sickle cell, and that's okay. It's about what are our next steps. All right, so I talked about I get up in the morning and exercise. I eat right. So I also sometimes take melatonin. I like this brand, Nordic Naturals, because it's an organic brand. And melatonin helps you sleep. So it's a natural herb that helps people sleep. I don't do it all the time because really the exercise, at the end of the day, it makes me tired. So it's for days when I don't get the exercise like I should. I sometimes will take some gummies. Omega-3s. Omega-3s are huge because it can help you if you're dealing with anxiety and depression and other issues. It can help you gain that balance that you need. So that's a supplement that really helps me. Next slide. Transfer your guilt. So here's the thing, look for opportunities to express gratitude. So we've already acknowledged that sometimes we do have guilt, and that is totally fine. It's totally fine. But it's what do you do? Do you stay there in that state, or are you pushing through to something else? Are you transferring it to advocating? Are you transferring it to, doing something that is important to you? Next slide. All right, so set daily goals. You can set goals for yourself. This is what I want to do. One of my goals is I need an hour a day just to myself. You may not get an hour a day. Your goal may be I want to take a bath without my kids barging in. I'm just going to be real with you. You have to find what is that thing that's your goal. And when you start small, start with one goal, and then you can increase that over time. Listen to uplifting music. Music can change your mood. It's huge. Read a good book. One of the things that I do, I read books that help me feel like it's transferring me to another place. Because we have to learn from those who have been doing it longer than us. So I'm quick to say, I don't know everything. Let me see, can you give me any tips, any advice? So I'm good about asking people because I feel like our older generation, they have wisdom that they can impart upon us. Reach out to friends and loved ones. We talked about that. Sign your child up for camp. Now, all of us were, I don't know if you came to the first 10 o'clock meeting, they talked about the camps that they're doing here in Texas. They have camps all over the country. that have specialists that will watch our kids. We got to have the freedom in order to send them there. And I know that this was the first summer, my kid is 10, this was the first summer that I actually applied because I was afraid. So I'm right here with all of you. But I was like, if this kid can zip line, if she can ski, if she can do all these other things, she can go to camp. And I said, you know what? I have to have faith that she can do those things. And so I'm here to tell you it's okay to sign your kids up for camp. Give yourself a week, a little break. If that's the only break you get out of the year, it's important. Volunteer to help others. Look, we don't have a lot of time to volunteer, so I'm not saying sign up for the soup kitchen for several hours a week. I'm saying it could be a phone call to somebody else, to just listen. Sometimes we just need to listen to others. Next, practice self-care. How many of you are practicing self-care?
I just started.
Just started. Like, it's a popular buzzword right now, but self-care, it may not mean manis and petties. Self-care, you create what that means for you. It can be something like, it could be something in your house. I talked about that hour to myself. That's my self-care time. I'm sitting in my room, I'm listening to music, and I don't hear little people, mommy, 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 like 25 times, So that's something simple. It doesn't cost me a thing. But I tell my kids, this time is very important for me. And when I get that time, I'm coming out the room smiling, I'm happy, and I'm able to be a better mom. All right, so practice midday meditation, journal, write out your thoughts, relax. It's okay to relax. I talk about how we get up in the mornings and we go out. So this is me at the park. My kids go to the park. I'm jumping. I'm gonna have fun. Sometimes we have to get into our inner kid in order to live. And these are my girls. They like to go to the lake. Just being around water sometimes is therapeutic. So you have to find what works for you. But I'm here to say that you can. You can. Next slide. So this is my family. My kid loves to do things that are so out of my comfort zone. She wanted to go to iFly. Her sister is very shy, so she didn't want to smile for the camera, but that's my warrior. You gotta have fun. So have fun with your kids. Challenge yourself to enjoy your family and learn alongside your children. Live intentionally. That's really the whole point of this presentation, is to live intentionally. And I think that's it.
I wanted to add a little bit more information. When I did this presentation originally, one mom came to me and said, hey, can you talk a little bit more about what we can do when we're experiencing burnout and guilt while our child is in the hospital? And I wanted to take a few minutes and just share a few things. The first thing is, if you are able to have someone come to the hospital and provide you some physical relief by sitting in your place and taking your place while you sit with your child, that can be helpful. Also, listening to music in the hospital, bringing a nice blanket and making sure that you're eating and you're taking care of yourself while your child in the hospital is going to mean a world of difference. Also, having a friend or a loved one that you can talk to. So if you need to vent, if you need to kind of just run things by someone, do that. That will really help you cope with the reality of your child being in the hospital. Another thing that you can do is talk to your doctors. They may know about resources that are available in your community. It may not be the doctors, it may be social workers or other support persons that provide resources and knowledge in the hospital setting. So definitely reach out to those outlets. Take something that, it could be a book that you like to read. You may be a person who likes to knit. So keeping yourself or your hands busy can help kind of relieve your mind and relieve the tension. So I just wanted to add those things to this presentation to help provide some added support and information. All right, I hope you enjoyed the session, and I wish you all the best.